they needed a better plan. Like they were really just flying by the seat of their pants and it was stressing me out. This book is already throwing me. Am I reading the book or is the book reading me? Hey y'all, I'm Brea and I wanted to dedicate some time to reading some of my most anticipated books of 2025, and these three just happen to be by Black authors. And y'all, when I say that I was so excited to get to a few of these, words can't even explain. And so the three books that I'm reading for this video, first up is Blood Slaves by Markus Redmond. This book I think has literally been my most anticipated of 2025. I've learned recently this year that I really enjoy books that have a mix of like historical fiction, but also like another genre like horror, thriller, sci-fi. And so this book is about essentially Black vampires, and so I was immediately like, I need to pick this up because I think it's going to be very much up my alley. I've never read anything by Markus Redmond before, and I typically don't like vampire stories, but I have a lot of hope for this book. And the next two books, I just want to plug in and say, unfortunately, it was hard for me to actually obtain physical copies of these books, and I really hate that because these next two books, they are authors that have proved to be authors that people enjoy, that continuously want to pick up their books. And so the fact that like I can't go to my local Barnes and Noble and get them doesn't sit right with me. But the first one is Meet Me at the Crossroads by Giddings. And so this is supposed to be a story about these doors that just magically appear on Earth that can take you to other worlds, essentially. And so I've read from Giddings before. I've read her other two books, and unfortunately I usually don't vibe with her books as much as I hope, but her premises always capture me. And so she always pulls me in with the hooks, and I'm like, okay, I have to give her another chance. And then we have the sequel to my literal favorite romance of all time, which is Honey and Spice. We are reading Sweet Heat. I am so excited to get into this. And so this is a sequel that follows Malachi and Kiki, and apparently they have broken up, but they are kind of forced back together when their two best friends get married and they have to do kind of all these wedding festivities. So I'm excited to get back into this relationship. Like, I'm so nosy. I really want to know what's going on. So without further ado, we're doing a little traveling in this video. We are going to some concerts in this video. Obviously the lighting doesn't know what it wants to do in this video, but let's go ahead and get to reading. All right, so I had the opportunity to get about 3 chapters into Blood Slaves, and those 3 chapters also include the author's note, which I wanted to mention because I thought the inspiration and the story behind this was really interesting. And Markus Redmond mentions that in 2020, he was set out to write a different vampire novel, but then George Floyd was murdered, and he said it really kind of reshaped how he was thinking about the story. And that he actually wrote like the first draft of the book in like 44 days. And so I just thought that was fascinating. And I feel like that kind of carries over into like this weighty feeling that we start the book out with. Like we start the book out with learning a bit about the history of some of these vampires and like why there isn't many of them left. And then we immediately go to 2 slaves running away from the plantation, and then one of them getting caught and like being brutally eaten by dogs. It really just kind of throws you into the story very quickly. I'm hoping that we get a little bit more background into the vampire history because I feel like that was covered in essentially like 3 or 4 pages. And so I'm not sure if we're just going to learn more throughout the story or if that's going to be kind of like the extent of the history we get. I don't know, but I'm very intrigued. I feel like this book is going to have a lot to say. I think I'm in the right headspace for it though, so I'm definitely excited to get into this. And I'll mention too, I recently did this video where I was predicting like where all of my 5-star predictions would land, and this is a 5-star prediction for me, and I think it's gonna be like towards the top of my list at the end of the year, but who knows? Who knows after 3 chapters? We're just going to continue reading. But as an aside, as a little update, I did have the opportunity to go to the Weeknd concert last night, and it was phenomenal. Like, I forget how many bangers The Weeknd actually has, and his voice sounds so good live, it's crazy. And you know how sometimes when people sing, you can tell that they're putting effort into singing? I feel like The Weeknd just like opens his mouth and he just sounds good. And so like, I love that for him. I wish I had a talent of any sort, but hey, here we are. And so I just really enjoyed that. So I wanted to give you guys an update there. But I'm also literally 5 minutes out from leaving my house because I am about to head to Tampa, Florida to visit my dad for the long weekend. I just really need a little bit of sun. I need a little bit of pool time. Would love to get some fishing in. Fun fact, our family loves to fish, but I feel like I only go when I'm with my dad. So hopefully we get an opportunity to do a little bit of that, but I'll definitely take you guys along where I can. So welcome to the vlog, for real, for real. Let's do it. So I'm making this angle work because I am in Florida at my dad's house and I didn't bring like any of my camera equipment other than this mic. So we're going to try our best here. Bear with me, please. But I did get about 150 pages into Blood Slaves on my way here. And I'm really enjoying the story so far, but it's not exactly giving me the feeling that I wanted so far. But I think that's mostly because this book is so hard to read. Obviously, we know how traumatic and horrible slavery is, but when you read some of the details that are going on in this book, it just literally makes your stomach turn, right? And so it is pretty gory and bloody, and then, you know, just also traumatic. And there is a lot of trigger warnings at the beginning of this book, and I feel like we've already hit a lot of those. So far in the story, we still don't really have too much background into the vampire's history, but you know what? I think it's enough at this point. Really, so far the book has been focusing on the slaves at the plantation, our main character finding out that one of the slaves is a vampire, and then figuring out what he wants to do from there. This book is so tough to read in certain aspects, okay, because I'm thinking specifically there's a conversation that happens around a kitchen table with a whole bunch of the white people. I always like to warn people the N-word with the hard ERs in here, but I think you would expect that kind of considering the nature of the book. Books like this, sometimes it's hard to call enjoyable, you know, because you're reading about slavery and essentially the dehumanization of people, and that's hard. I was planning on reading some more tonight. However, as you saw, we went deep sea fishing, and while your girl be out there catching fish, okay, I got about 8 or 10. Don't play with me. Play with somebody else that don't got a fishing pole. All right. However, as I look at y'all right now, this is what it feels like in my head. I'm swaying so bad still. So there's just no way I can look at a page of a book right now. So I'm just going to lay down. It's probably going to feel like I'm drunk laying in this bed, but that's okay. All right, y'all, I am back from Florida. I had such a good time just with my dad and just being in Florida in general. I love being there. The weather is so good. The food is always so good. The seafood. I had been dreaming about this blackened fish sandwich for a whole year, and I finally got it on my last day, and it was definitely worth the wait. But I did make it through another chunk of Blood Slaves. I have about 65 pages left to finish the book. And at this point in the story, I feel like there's kind of a lot going on, and I'm not really sure where the story is going to end up. But in the story, we do explore, I guess, kind of two ideals when it comes to some of the slaves' mindsets. So some of them are very on board to become vampires and kind of have vengeance on the slave owners and essentially every white person at the plantation. And then there's this other mindset that's, why would we combat violence with violence, and a lot of them are struggling with that thought. Again, I'm just really curious to see where it's gonna go in the last 65 pages, because they have been trying to come up with this plan, but like I'm still not necessarily sure what the plan is. I'm not sure if it's going to be kind of a straightforward story or if there's going to be some type of other twist in it. I do feel like the writing is really enjoyable, but again, I'm just like not getting that like 6-star read feeling. I feel like depending on how this ends, this is either going to be like a solid 4-star for me or maybe like a 4.5, but we'll see. I feel like a lot can still happen in 65 pages. And I think it's interesting because I feel like if this book was out when Sinners came out, this would have been at the top of everybody's lists of, if you liked Sinners, you'll like these books, because this is almost like right there. The way that like the blood and the guts and the gore, it just like doesn't shy away from like some of the hard truths of like what a vampire would actually entail, which I am really enjoying. It's making me a little squeamish in the stomach, but I feel like it's needed for this story. So overall, I still am enjoying this. I'm hoping that I will finish this either tonight or sometime tomorrow. I am in a sleep deficit, and I usually like to say I'm young and spry, but I'm not feeling like that. So I'll come back to you guys once I finish this and when I know which next book I'm gonna start. You guys, it has been like the most eventful last couple of days, because I don't know if you guys can hear it in my voice, but like I am sick again. Like I was sick right before I left for Florida, and I had recovered like a couple days before I left, and I felt really good, felt normal. Came back, was also feeling normal for the first couple of days I was back, and then this weekend I ended up with like a fever, but I like wasn't sure if it was a fever or not. But I did finish Blood Slaves by Markus Redmond, and so I think I'm gonna give this book like a 4.5. I think it could be a 5-star, just depending on how I feel about it in the coming weeks, like if it's something that's really sticks with me. And I feel like it wasn't like a full 5-star, only because I feel like there could have been a little bit more structure to the story. And what I mean by that is like, I feel like these slaves obviously had a plan to rebel, and I understand that they had to move very quickly, but I feel like they needed a better plan. Like they were really just flying by the seat of their pants, and it was stressing me out. Like if you guys are gonna start a revolution, you need a plan A at least. And one of the moments in this book where I just like had to laugh a little bit, you know, they're in their vampire mode, and one of the vampires is about to kill one of the plantation owners, and even in their last moments, they see that all of their buddies, all of their friends are getting killed by these vampires, okay? But all they still can see is a black person. And they're yelling, screaming, and like, you better stop that right now. Like 5 of your friends over there with no neck. The head ain't connected to their body. So what makes you think, because you own the slaves, that they're gonna now listen to you? But I feel like it really just showed some people have this hatred in their heart and really just think some people less than, that even in their last moments, that's all that they care about. And when I went into this book, I was definitely thinking it was going to be just like a standalone, but I don't know why I didn't think that like a world about vampires could turn into a series. And so the way that this ending, Mr. Redmond, had me stressed out, and I am so scared about where this series is gonna go, but like scared in a good way. Like I'm on the edge of my seat, because I'm like, I just wasn't expecting that. But overall, this is definitely a really good book. It's definitely one that I'm going to recommend to a lot of people. Overall, 4.5, phenomenal. So happy that I picked this up. Okay, but since I finished Blood Slaves, I did actually start Meet Me at the Crossroads by Giddings today. And so I have it on my Kindle, but I did start it on audiobook today. And I literally just had to reread the synopsis because this book is already throwing me. And so I feel like there's something I have to talk to you guys about with this book. I don't think it's a spoiler because we touch on it in the first like chapter of the book. And so the synopsis of this book is these mysterious doors come to Earth, and these doors, people aren't sure really what they are at first. Some people open them, try to go through them, and they like spontaneously combust. Some people can go through them and come back and they feel like they've had these really special experiences, but it's all tying back to religion. Like essentially people are starting a religion around these doors. It's feeling a little culty, religious culty. And there's a lot of focus around religion because we meet two twins. One of them lives with her mom, the other one lives with the dad. And the daughter that lives with the dad, they're trying to figure out this like religion around the doors, right? But right now we're just kind of learning about the differences between the twins' lives and kind of how they feel about each other. And it's all actually very interesting. I just was not expecting religion to be so heavy in this, and I feel like I may have more to say about this once I get further into the story. But I feel like this is how sometimes Megan Giddings loses me, because the premises of her book sounds so good, but then I sometimes almost feel like I'm being lied to because that's not exactly the book that I get. Like my expectations and reality don't always meet up, but who knows, this could be different because I am enjoying the writing style of this. I feel like it's reading pretty easy. I am really intrigued about where the story is going to go and how the characters are going to evolve. So I'll leave that there for now. I feel like I put this book in the middle because it'll encourage me to read it and finish it so that I can get to Sweet Heat. But I'm about to go lay down because the more I talk, the more my head started to spin a little bit. So let me go sit down somewhere. Okay, so I finished Meet Me at the Crossroads and I have a lot of thoughts, but I also want to say good things about the book. It's taking me a little bit to find the right words for that part. So Meet Me at the Crossroads, I just feel like I had issues with this because I think the expectation that the synopsis set really just threw me off. Okay, because the expectation and then what I got did not align. Because I feel like one of the whole reasons I was excited about this book and I wanted to pick it up was that it felt like this magical portal world, right? Like where we were going to get to go to, you know, this door that was this world and this door that was another world. That's kind of what I felt like it was going to be, like some type of portal fantasy. And we spent like 2 whole minutes inside the doors and I didn't like that. And I had mentioned in my previous clip that this book does touch on religion, and that was a continuous through line in the book. I also say look up the trigger warnings for this. There was some talk of suicidal thoughts, so kind of know that going into the book. There's also just some complex family dynamics there, but me trying to be a thorough reviewer here, I think if you like contemporary fiction with just like a very teeny tiny element of something else, I think you could enjoy this book because I think the writing was still well done. Like it still had me hooked because of the writing style, so I'll give it that. However, just the subject matter just lost me a bit, and I was really tempted to DNF this book actually like 30% of the way in, but the only thing that really kept me reading was this video, and honestly I really could have done without it, but I'm glad I read it to give you guys a review. Again, it may work for some people, just didn't work for me, so I'm giving it a 3-star, but derogatory. Sometimes 3 stars it's like, oh, it wasn't bad, just didn't have anything else to say, and then there's 3 stars where it's like, this is not what I was hoping it was gonna be. So that's where the derogatory is coming in from. But you know, not every book is gonna be a win, and that's okay. But we are now on to Sweet Heat, and I'm so excited. I've listened to the first like 10 minutes of the audiobook, and already the tension that I'm feeling, the writing style, like my emotions are like immediately back into this story and I'm so excited. But I'm ready because I'm hoping that we get to end this video with like a solid 5-star. I'm just so excited. Okay, editing Brea here. I realized that I was so excited about reading Sweet Heat that I didn't really give you guys a good synopsis of the book, so whoops. But Sweet Heat is the sequel to Honey and Spice. And in Honey and Spice, we meet Kiki and Malachi while they are in college. And at the time, Kiki is running a podcast essentially about how men ain't shit. And she ends up falling for a really big player who ends up being Malachi, and they end up falling for each other. And at the end of Honey and Spice, it is kind of what feels like a happy ending. And so with Sweet Heat being the sequel, we do start the story knowing that they have broken up, something has happened, but we're not sure exactly what. But their best friends are getting married, and so Malachi and Kiki do have to be in the same space together again, and we are learning about them just having to navigate that as they have broken up, figuring out why they have broken up, all of that. So hopefully that gives you guys a good synopsis and some grounding into what I'm about to go into in these following clips. But let's go ahead and see what I actually thought about the book as I was reading. Am I reading the book or is the book reading me? Like, I forget how much I actually relate to Kiki. Like, just her sense of humor, spot on. Like, I've caught myself laughing out loud multiple times, but also just how she views relationships also is very relatable, which isn't like always the best thing in this case. And just like how she views certain situations, I just feel like is so relatable. But in this story so far, we are following Kiki kind of immediately, but we're following her as she's kind of in a newish relationship, and that kind of surprised me a bit. And so we're learning about kind of like the differences between her current relationship and then maybe the one that she was in before, but we probably get a good like 20% into the book before we really even discuss Malachi and we discuss like why they broke up. And right now we don't really know the real reason that they broke up. It's being alluded to a little bit of a miscommunication, which I typically don't like in romance, but I have a feeling that I may prefer it or be okay with it in this instance. We'll see. But also I feel like this rarely happens, but like the spicy scene happened sooner than I thought it would, but it's definitely coming from a place more of like, this is a little bit toxic. I will say that I think Sweet Heat, there was one kind of spicy scene in there and it was almost more fade to black. Like, I think it gave you just enough to like give you what you needed, but like not too much. However, in this book, the characters are a bit older. I think they're closer to like 27, 28. And so they're a little bit more experienced. They got a little bit more going on, and so that spicy scene also lasted a lot longer than I thought it was. And I've been tandem reading this via audio, and Miss Babalola, whoa girl, wow, you transcended me into the moment is all I'll say. But it's written phenomenally, but then also the spicy scene just isn't like a spicy scene, right? Like, there is a lot of emotion and inner thoughts that are going into this because there is like some unresolved issues with Malachi and Kiki. And so all of that is being intertwined into this spicy scene, which I just think was really well done because I feel like it's so realistic. And I'm also just enjoying, you know, Kiki being a very multifaceted person. Like, yes, this is a romance, but we're not just focused on the romance. We're also focused on Kiki being a good friend, because we're at a point in the book right now where Kiki is starting to have to navigate some of these wedding festivities for her friend while also navigating being around her ex-boyfriend and also navigating her other relationship that she's kind of into. So there's a lot going on, but it's so well done, so well done. And like every time I pick it up, I really just want to sit and finish it, but I've had like a few other things to just kind of do over the weekend, so hoping that I will get through a good chunk of this tonight. But the other stuff I've been doing this weekend, so much fun. I feel like this vlog is just like the concert vlogs of all concert vlogs, because I went to another concert with my friend Sarah. We saw a band called Royal Otis. I feel like it's rare now to go out and for people to actually dance, like more than just kind of like shoulder work, you know. Like, people are actually moving their feet at that concert, and I just loved it. Like, everybody's inhibitions, you could just tell, were just very low, and like the crowd and the vibe was really good, so phenomenal. And so I really enjoyed myself. But I've kind of been on the go all weekend, and so I'm definitely tired, but want to get some book stuff done. So gonna continue reading this, and I will give you guys another update, hopefully an even better one, once I have a little bit more read of this. Y'all, I finished Sweet Heat. 6 stars. I am obsessed. I really didn't think that there was any way that I would like a romance better than Honey and Spice, and here I am. This sequel is phenomenal. I finished this last night, and I've really just been thinking about this story all day. I feel like what's so special about this love story and this romance, I feel like a lot of time in romance, we only get to see those characters like inside that dynamic and inside that relationship. But with this, we are getting a perspective of them in their careers, them navigating friendships, them navigating real life stuff like grief, and how that is impacting their relationship and how that impacts like their thoughts and their feelings. And it just makes everything that they're going through in their relationship make a lot more sense. And I just feel like Bolu Babalola makes these characters so relatable, and I feel like no matter what they're going through, you're always still rooting for them, right? This is one of those few books that actually makes me want to be in love. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, that's cute or whatever, but this just feels so raw and real. I also feel like the conflict in here, because essentially we're trying to work through the conflict through the entire story. We're learning about some of the things they're going through now and they're having to navigate, but also why they broke up in the past. And I feel like you are able to understand why they broke up, but also knowing that it was probably necessary and that they had to do some growing to kind of come back together. But again, Miss Babalola definitely read me a few times in here where there was things said and I was like, wow, my therapist also said something similar. And so again, I just feel like I can just so relate to Kiki. I've never been in the situation she's in, but I feel like there was just moments in there where I was like, girl, I feel you. I understand why you're thinking certain things, even though maybe that wasn't the right way to go about it. I will also say that if you read Honey and Spice, you know that there was like one spicy scene in there. There are multiple in here, and they are a lot spicier. They are a lot more detailed, and I'm not mad at it one bit. And it's just so well written. So well written, because again, I'll say like it wasn't just straight like smut, just straight knocking boots, you know. It's just like so much emotion that's in there, so much thought that's going on behind just like the action, and so much feeling that's going on behind the action. Some of it was like felt kind of poetic at the same time. Like, this book is a masterpiece. I truly cannot believe that Bolu was able to top Honey and Spice. And I know some of you guys probably see this book physically and are like, why is this book over 450 pages? Why is a romance over 450 pages? It needed every page. I will also say that we kind of get like a bonus romance in here as well, with the couple that is getting married in their friendship group. And I love them too. Like, there's just multiple ways to like really be in love with somebody. And at the end of the day, this just proves that like love wins, you know. As much as sometimes I'm very skeptical about that, love wins, and I loved seeing it in here. Like, honestly, this just made my heart so, so happy. This is 100% going to be in my top 10 books of the year. I already know. And I actually had a Honey and Spice in my top 10 books of all time. And I feel like because I enjoyed this more, I have to replace it, and that's crazy. But I think this is like literally my new favorite romance of all time. Oh, I'm just so happy. Like, I just love when books are good and like when you read and you're like, this is why I read. But I'm so happy that we got to end this video off on a high note. I feel like this entire video I had a good time reading. Some of the books didn't turn out exactly how I was hoping, but that's okay. But I definitely consider this video a win. So just as a reminder, 4.5 for Blood Slaves by Markus Redmond, one of my most anticipated books of the year. I highly, highly recommend this, especially if you are someone who likes vampires, who likes reading a little bit about history and just like alternate ways history could have happened. If you liked the movie Sinners, you'll definitely enjoy Blood Slaves. And I'm just so excited that I really enjoyed this one, but I feel like that really wasn't a surprise. And then we have Meet Me at the Crossroads by Giddings. This is the one I knew I would maybe struggle with and unfortunately I was correct. But that's okay. I'm still glad that I picked it up, but I do think I know in the future that I probably won't pick up Megan Giddings' works. Probably no matter how interesting the premise sounds, because I feel like after 3 books I kind of just understand her writing style, and it's not something that I tend to enjoy a whole lot. While I appreciate her work and while I think the premises that she comes up with are chef's kiss, just not sure how interested I am in picking up her work in the future. And then of course, this baby right here, Sweet Heat. One of my new favorite books of the year, new favorite books of all time. And if you made it to the end of this video, leave a some type of spicy emoji, like a flame or like a chili pepper for Sweet Heat. And let me know down below in the comments, what is your last 6-star read that you've had? And as always, if you made it to the end of this video, you are my absolute favorite, my little tater tot. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.